Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So welcome for this day 6 of this exciting journey which we are continuing. So we'll continue today with our discussions. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So we'll start by offering our obeisances to the Swamis. Please do repeat after me by unmuting yourself. Nana Shastra Vichanika Nipanau Sadharma Sanstapakau Lokanam Hitkarinau Tribhuvane Manyau Sharanyakarau Radha Krishna Padarvinda Bhajnanande Mathalikau Vande Rupa Sanatanau Raghuyugau Te Jiva Gopalakau. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the 3 worlds and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So a short summary of what we have covered till now. Nectar of devotion is divided into the 4 waves or subsections: Eastern, Southern, Western and Northern. So Eastern side, Purva Vibhag, it is going to be talking about the Bhakti. So Bhagavad Bhakti Bhed or the varieties of devotional service is something which we are understanding in the Purva Vibhag. So here we are going to be understanding in the first 19th chapter what is the difference between Samanya Bhakti, the Sadhana Bhakti, then comes the Bhava Bhakti, and finally the Prema Bhakti or devotional service in love of God. So basically we have to go from a very basic what Bhakti means, then how to practice the Bhakti, how that practice is going to result into ecstasy, and how that ecstasy is one day going to end up with our pure love for Krishna. So, definitions of pure devotional service and devotional service, which are the shloka number 11 and shloka number 12. So important words from those shlokas. Shloka number 11 talks about Anyabhilashita Shunyam, Anukullena, Anushilanam, and Dhyana Karmadi Anavritam. So what it means is that the bhakti or the devotional service has to be devoid of all other desires. It has to be favorable to Krishna. When we say Krishna, Krishna means Krishna, all his incarnations and all his paraphernalia as well as representatives of Krishna. Anushilanam, it means cultivation, and we have to follow in the footsteps of our previous acharyas, whatever are the instructions which are given to us. And it should not be covered by any kind of karma or jnana. Because pure knowledge, only knowledge is not no use. As we'll be seeing actually today, it's part of chapter 1. So we are going to be covering that paragraph today. Then the 12th shloka, wherein it talks about Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam, Tat Paratvena, Sevanam and Nirmalam. What it means is we have to be free from all material designations. We should take Krishna as the highest object. We should always be busy in Sevanam or service to him, and it has to be faultless. Now, when we say faultless, it has to be something which we have to be thinking about seriously, which we'll be covering maybe next week. That topic will come, because the mistakes cannot need not only be by this body, it can even be by what we think or what we are about to think. So we have to be very careful. So from the first definition, we come across two lakshanas: Swarupa lakshana, which is important, and Tathastha lakshana, which may not be there. So in Swarupa lakshana, three parts are Anukullena, Krishna, and Anushilanam. And Tathastha lakshanas, Anyabhilashita Shunyam, and Dhanakarmadi Anavritam. Three important aspects of Swarupa lakshana which we have to remember always. Devotional service is for Krishna only. It is to be an active engagement, and it has to be executed with favorable intent. Favorable intent towards Krishna. Anyabhilashita Shunyam is free from ulterior motive, any kind other integral desire, abhilashita, and it cannot, we have to have a void. Then yesterday we studied the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, namely Kleshagni, Shubhada, Moksha Laghukrata, Sudurlabha, Sandrandanan Visheshatma, and Shri Krishna Akarshini. What it means is, devotional service is going to be something which is going to give us relief from material distress. It bestows all auspiciousness on us. It derides even happiness of liberation. It is difficult and rare to achieve. It brings incalculable transcendental pleasure, and it is the only means to attract Krishna. So having covered all these things, what we have started now discussing in detail in this chapter 1 is how pure devotional service gives relief from material distress. But for that to be known to us, we'll first have to understand how or what the distress is like. And that is where we had come up to yesterday. So what we have to remember here is one by one aspect which we have to keep in mind. And we have to remember that first we need to understand how this all is going to be difficult, but yes, we have to achieve it we have to achieve it slowly and steadily. And unless we achieve it slowly and steadily, we will not be successful. So we'll continue with that discussion today now, how it is important. So yesterday we had come to this particular aspect, how ignorance leads to desire, desire leads to sin, and sin leads to suffering. So causes of suffering we have understood yesterday. It is basically the result of our sins or our improper actions, materialistic actions. So we saw yesterday 3 causes: papam, bijam, and avidya. So papam is the result of our sins. Bijam is because we have that material desire. See, if we did not have the material desire, then we would not have done any kind of materialistic actions. And so, if we had not done any materialistic action, there was no question of any papam. And that is how bijam or material desire is the source. But again, this material desire is something which is coming out of ignorance. And that is why avidya is the root cause. So that is how cycle develops. Ignorance leads to desire, desire leads to sin, and sin leads to the suffering. And we as human beings are continuing to suffer in this way. And we have to now understand how it's going to be stopped. So sinful actions basically cause sufferings in 2 ways, it is said. Those 2 ways are Prarabdh and Aprarabdh. Prarabdh means something which has manifested, and Aprarabdh means something which has not yet manifested, or the unmanifest reactions. So whatever yesterday we were talking about, this diabetes, hypertension, blood pressure, so these are directly seen physical distresses, or the stress, the tensions, the feelings that we expect from our children but do not get, or the support we expect from parents or we do not get. So all kinds of such mental distress. So they all come under the Prarabdh. So whatever sinful actions we have done, they would manifest into these two kinds of sufferings, Prarabdha sufferings and Aprarabdha sufferings. And in Prarabdha sufferings, you will see them either being seen as something which is physical or something which is mental distress. So many a times, like yesterday, one of the Matajis was raising this question: why is it that even after doing devotional service or even after we have come in Krishna consciousness, we are still having suffering? Now, this is where that answers are coming. And in fact, whatever questions we have, as we go more into this book, which Srila Jiva Rupa Goswamiji has written, we'll understand most of our problems are having documented answers. And we are just repeating whatever is said by the Parampara. So, the sufferings are a reaction because of whatever actions which we have done in either earlier of this life or in previous lifetimes, and they are now being seen today. So many times people feel, yeah, I have been so good, then why did I have an accident? Why was it that I had to be hospitalized? Why is it that I was supposed to lose a finger? Why is it that I was supposed to have no eyesight? The answer is, these are the prarabdha reactions of whatever papam was there. May not be in this lifetime. It could be of earlier millions of lifetimes. So that is something which is seen. And in fact, we should be thankful that at least we are now seeing those reactions. Because if prarabdha is not seen, what is more dangerous is aprarabdha, the unmanifest reactions. Because what aprarabdha does is goes and returns to our heart. And because it is there in our heart, we become more proclived to do more kinds of sins further. So it now becomes Kutam. That is what the Shastra says. That is what Prabhupada has mentioned in this particular chapter, in this particular paragraph. So, aprarabdhas or unmanifest reactions are more dangerous. So many times we feel that sometimes someone is very good and at times it becomes very bad all of a sudden. Why is it? It's the aprarabdha which has now started becoming more strong and manifesting as prarabdha. So, aprarabdha reactions, they could be of millions of years earlier, millions of lifetimes earlier. And they keep on increasing our sinful desires. It could be of any. The question comes, what is sinful? The answer is what is Deva, which is given in the Shastras. Anything that is against the law of God, against the order of God, is sinful. And that is what differentiates Deva and Devata. So, all those who follow the instructions of Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are gods. And those who try to break those principles, try to break those orders, they are the demons. And the moment we try to break the orders, the moment we are trying to break those principles, it is a sin. Because we are not following the instructions. Now just take this as what happens generally in your offices. Suppose you are working in some office and you have an employee. Hare Krishna, someone wants to say something? Yeah, no issues. So suppose we are working in an office.
No sound. Oh, no sound.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Sorry, I had a connectivity issue. Hare Krishna. So even though he may feel that he has not done anything wrong, what happens is, just because if we allow him to continue, then our problems are going to keep on increasing. And so we cannot have such thing continuing. So what we do is, we do not allow such things to continue. And we ask him to move out. So same is the aspect here. When we say that if you don't follow the instructions of God, then Krishna is not going to be allowing it to be with him. And so we get pushed into this material world. And now if the reactions have not happened immediately, then because it is Kutam, it is there in our heart, we completely keep on increasing our desires. We become habituated to it. We become addicted to the activities. And then, though we get the sufferings, we feel it's okay. I cannot do anything else. So this is what was happening. When Prabhupada went to America, he found there was a huge problem with the next generation, the young generation out there. They had become completely detached. They had become completely, they didn't know what to do with their lives. And so all of them had become hippies. And they used to feel what they are doing is the best. And even if they get reactions for it, they were continuing to do it. There is no other way out. Even in elections, we nowadays get that option, nota. So that is how they have become. That is how we take it for granted. If there's no other way, so we continue being used to it. There's no solution that something can improve, so we become adjusted to it, adapted to it. And that is how, though there is a suffering, we don't understand this is a suffering. So we may have become a pig in our life, but though we know that eating that stool is something not good, but when we have become pig, we have become habituated to it, and we find that being in that dirt and eating that stool is something which is okay. So though we have got that addiction, we have become sinful, and we are getting the sufferings, still we become used to it, we become habituated to it. We may become trees, completely naked, and we'll have to suffer the Shita as well as Ushnata, that is the cold as well as the heat. But then we become used to it. What can I do? I am a tree now. There's no way out. But we don't understand that we have become a tree because we had that desire in our previous lifetime to remain naked. That is something which you can understand only in the human life, only in the human birth. And so now that we have got this human birth, we have to understand about this Prarabdha as well as Aprarabdh. We should be happy that Prarabdha has come and we are seeing the reactions, it will now get destroyed. But we have to be worried about our Prarabdha as well. Because unless that Aprarabdha is removed once and for all completely, we will again be back to the same cycle. And that is where pure devotional service makes an important contribution. So relief from suffering happens only when we get into the bhakti. And bhakti is something which destroys each and every cause of suffering. So whatever causes of suffering we are talking about, all those are going to be destroyed by this devotional service. Let us see how it happens. So first, let us talk about the unmanifest reactions. So here it is said, there's quotation wherein it is said, my dear Uddhava, devotional service unto me is just like blazing fire, which can burn into ashes, unlimited fuel supply. Now just see what Krishna is saying to Uddhava. Krishna tells, Uddhava, You do bhakti, you do devotional service. And that is something which is like a fire. So whatever fuel you supply to fire, that fuel will be destroyed. And your devotional service or that fire will keep on. So the example is very clear. In forest, there are so many wood, unlimited wood. The fire is going to destroy it. It won't allow the wood to stay. The moment a wood comes, fire destroys it. The moment a wood comes, fire destroys it. Similarly, a moment a bijam comes or a kutam comes, pure devotional service destroys it. So all the aprarabdhas, the moment they come in touch with bhakti, bhakti destroys them. So let there be any kind of aprarabdha. Let there be any kind of material desires. What bhakti does is, it keeps on destroying them not only of today, but even for future. And that is something which Krishna has said directly to Uddhava. So even unmanifest reactions can be removed by what? Pure devotional service. And this is not something me or acharyas are saying. This is directly Krishna who has told to Uddhava, my dear Uddhava, devotional service unto me is just like blazing fire, which can burn into ashes, unlimited fuel supply. The other cause we saw is of manifest reactions. Again, in manifest reactions, when there was discussions between Devahuti and Kapil Dev, Lord Kapila Dev is an incarnation of Krishna. So Devahuti was talking to Kapila Dev and she said, my dear Lord, just see a mother telling the son, my dear Lord. She says, anyone who hears about your pastimes, who chants about your glories, who offers you obeisances, who thinks of you, and in this way executes any of the 9 kinds of devotional service, even if he is born in a family of dog eaters, which is the lowest of the grade of the mankind, they become immediately qualified to perform sacrifices. 4 important aspects which Devahuti has said. What are those 4? What things we have to do is, we have to hear about pastimes. We have to chant about glories. We have to offer obeisances. And we have to think of the Lord. Now, how is it that this is destroying the manifest? This is how it comes. Now, low birth, it should not be low birth weight. Apologies, I'm a doctor. It is the low birth. So, if you are born in a lowly family, then it is a manifestation of the sinful reaction. Because we have done some sins in the past life, that is why we are born in a degraded family in this particular life. And it is said that if we do devotional service, and even if we are not able to complete the devotional service in this lifetime, we need not worry. It will not again start from zero next lifetime. Next lifetime, it will start from where we have left. And so that we start from where we have left, we are going to be given birth in a better family, a family of Brahmanas or kings, so that we take our devotional service further. So similarly, if you are born in lowly families, in any kind of problematic families, then it is a manifestation of our sinful reactions in the previous life forms. Now, what happens because of that? 2 things happen. One, we are not able to take advantage of Vedic knowledge and yajnas. Sacrifices here means the yajnas. Because we are born in a lowly family, a family of Shudras, who don't understand these things, who don't have an access to Vedic knowledge, or who don't have the propensity to understand the Vedic wisdom, so we remain backward. Now, what devotional service does is, it counteracts the effects of low birth. So even if you are born in such families, still devotional service immediately liberates us from bodily consent, and thus our existence becomes purified. So whatever is the manifestation suffering which is coming because of, I'll say, impure or sinful body and mind, it is nullified. Because now you know you are not this body. That is the important aspect. You know you are this soul. So we are not troubled by whatever happens to this body. Whatever are the expectations of this body, whatever we expect that our spouse should care for us, or a spouse should care for our children, or our children should care for us and not for his spouse. Now that is what parents generally are worried about. The moment their children are married, they feel the child is not giving them attention. But then this is all Prarabdha. These are manifested reactions. You need not worry. All these are coming from our previous life. And the moment we understand this, the moment we get into bhakti, we understand this body is temporary. And this world is also temporary. And there is going to be only suffering here. So with the moment we know that this is dukkhalayam, this is ashashvatam, this body is also nashvara, we will not get disturbed by what others do to us, or what others, we expect others to do, but they don't do that. So our expectations from others become nil. In Marathi we say, or even in Hindi we say, आशा होगी तो निराशा होगी, आशा रखोगे तो निराशा होगी, आशा असेल तर निराशा होईल. If you have hopes, you will lose your heart. You will have a heartbreak. So let's not have any kind of hopes from anyone. And that is something which the bhakti does. Bhakti immediately breaks that chain which is all the things which are attached to this body. And the moment this is derived, this is removed, we need not hope. And how is it going to be done? With what devotee says to Kapila Dev, or even Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Man mana bhava mad bhakto mat yaji namaskuru. These same four things. We have to hear about Krishna's pastimes. We have to chant about Krishna's glories. We have to offer our obeisances to Krishna. We have to always think of Krishna. If you have Krishna at the center of your activities, whatever you do, you will not get disturbed. Otherwise, the whole world is there to destroy you and keep you disturbed. Now it is up to you, up to me, what we want to do. Whether we want to be getting disturbed by the world, by our relatives, by our colleagues, or we have to forget all those things and think, what would Krishna want us to do? And the moment our bhakti becomes good, we start thinking what Krishna wants us to do. Then we are not worried what others think about us. And that is how the manifest reactions are also destroyed by the devotional service. But we saw the manifest reactions or unmanifest reactions, they are the effects of material desires. So Prabhuji, how is it that material desires will be controlled? How is bhakti going to do it? Jiva Goswami ji answers. Now he gives very good example. There are various rituals, religious rituals, which are mentioned in the Shastras. So there are yagyas, there are tapas, there are vratas. So what they do is, they counteract the sinful reactions, whatever papa we may have done. But then jap, tap, vrat, they fail to change one's heart. And if the heart is not changed, then they are ineffective in ending the suffering. Because it is there in the heart, the Aprarabdh is there in the heart. That proclivity continues. There's risk that will become habituated, will become addicted. So even though the current problems are resolved by Jap Tap Vrat, still the basic problem is continuing. So what do we do? So Prabhupada ji here gives the example of how people sometimes they go to a particular place and they do confession. And it is said that as soon as they have done confession, they are absolved of the sin. But the problem does not end there. The sinful desire, since it is still inside, it propels the person to continue again in the sinful act which he has confessed for. So he keeps on suffering. So though he is observing the religious principle that he should go and confess, still what happens is the problem is not solved. It's continuing. So the Shastras give the example of even the elephant. So in our Monday to Friday classes, we are studying the Gajendra Moksha story. So there also we saw how Gajendra, who is the king of the elephants, he has now gone into the lake to take bath. But then the habit of the elephants is, after taking the bath in the lake, they again come out and again throw sand upon themselves as soon as they come out of it. So similarly, the rituals, whatever we follow, they are just removing the current problems. They are not absolving the cause. The cause is the material desires. A pure devotional service, it not only solves the sinful reaction, what it does is it injects into the heart desire to serve Krishna. You see, the heart which was filled with other expectations, those are removed, and the expectation to serve Krishna has come here in this heart. So it is antidote, because Krishna is spiritual. So all the material desires, they are out. So sinful desires keep on dwindling like the candle. So one is no longer engaged into sinful activities. And since no sinful activities, no karmic reactions. That is how materially any desire that we may have is completely removed. This has got very practical implications and applications. The other day we were talking to some student who was having, why my parents are so much strict with me. What do I do? So that strictness is because they expect a certain kind of a behavior. And they may be having some expectations, they may be having some material desires, and you are rebelling because you have your own material desires. Now just keep chanting. Now what chanting does is, it does the Cheto Darpan Marjanam. So automatically the heart gets cleaned, your desires vanish. The vibrations which you are having, those sound vibrations, this purify the atmosphere nearby also. So even others' desires also get vanished. And Krishna becomes the common factor for the whole family to continue living. Problem solved. Simple solution. That is how material desires are completely controlled by this activity. Then comes how to control the ignorance. Because finally we have seen ignorance is the root cause of everything, right? You remember the previous slide? We have seen everything starts with avidya. Prabhuji, how is now devotional service related to avidya? The answer is given. We get the knowledge of what we are. So immediately the root cause, avidya, is destroyed. The knowledge that we are this body, we are not this body, but we are part and parcel of Krishna, who is our eternal master. This knowledge is something which destroys everything. The moment we know we are not this body, why would we like to have something for this body? So no material desires are coming up anymore. So no more sinful action. No more we are going to be immersed in the service. Now here again the question comes. Does only this knowledge that we are not the body but spirit soul is sufficient? The answer is no. Because the knowledge that we are not the body and spirit soul is only going to help us to get away from bodily proclivity. And it will lead us to liberation. But the real identity that we are Krishna's servant is not established. So after having liberated from this material desires, material concept of body, there is a risk. And what is the risk? The risk that we may start thinking, oh, I am just like God. Boom, a big fall down. So only spiritual knowledge is insufficient. Real knowledge, what our real identity is, that we are servant of Krishna, is important. And only with this real knowledge do we are able to get out of avidya completely. And that is how the whole pure devotional service or bhakti helps us in achieving our objectives. So I've summarized it in even this form. So all these slides are stored. They're already at 8:45. So we'll stop further discussions here. If anyone has any questions, you may ask, or in fact, I am sharing the attendance link today. So the attendance link from today is something which is very useful. You will be able to, there's a drop down basically. So from the drop down, you have to select your name. And if you have any kind of questions, do raise them. We also request that you do give suggestions on whatever improvements which we can do, whatever expectations you have for us to go further, so that we can improve the sessions more and make them more interactive. As you would have seen, I am spending the initial 4-5 minutes to revise important aspects so that they become more long-lived. So the assignment for everyone for this week is, please read all the 3 attachments which I have shared till now in the meetings. I am sure you would have downloaded them in the previous lectures, or you can download them again from what I'll say the Drive, Google Drive. But just to make it easier, I'm sharing them again here in the chat box so that you can go through them. So please read these chapters, these particular pages. What we are discussing in this on Saturday, Sunday are just a summarization of all these things so that we become more